Good evening and welcome to First Issues. Last week we took a look at what consumer activists say is the deceptive mathematics used in hire purchase transactions, and found that what may initially appear to be a great plan for people struggling to purchase major appliances and the like may actually be a dangerous financial trap. As we wait for our requests and efforts to schedule interviews with retail managers to bear fruit, we speak to our resident consumer protection advocates about their first-hand experiences and knowledge beyond the simple numbers presented last week. They say they have uncovered a disturbing culture of confusion and misinformation, in which consumers are rushed into signing incomplete contracts or agreements they are not given time to study, virtually committing themselves to financial exploitation. Having been overwhelmed by the sheer number of people in insurmountable debt and with their creditworthiness destroyed by the purchase of a mere appliance or a piece of furniture, our guests have become increasingly convinced that stores keep their customers in the dark about noteworthy matters within these types of agreements. To get first-hand experience and proof of their suspicions, Kate and Richard Harriman have even recorded their revealing interactions with different retailers through the use of a hidden camera. Tonight we explore the mechanisms behind hire purchase agreements, the practices that have led Consumer Watchdog to conclude that hire purchase makes people poor. Welcome back to First Issues, as we consider the findings and experiences of our local consumer advocacy group with regards to hire purchase practices in our country. What tips and tools do our guests have for consumers who still want to buy through hire purchase agreements? In which ways could Botswana better protect themselves before signing along the dotted line?
See a psychiatrist. I know your question is a valid one, but the question you should keep on asking yourself if you're considering a store credit is, can I really afford this? Can I really afford to take the risks associated with this? Because the risks are profound. Most people who buy things on store credit, it ends up okay. Things don't go terribly wrong. They just spend an awful lot of money to buy something in a very risky manner. So I'm joking, but please, I beg everyone, before you buy on store credit, see if you just can't find a better way of doing it. Get a loan from a bank. At least banks are regulated aggressively. They're not going to abuse you too badly, if at all. Can you save instead? Saving is by far the best option. Put money into a savings account. You might even earn a little bit of interest. Not much, but if you're buying a sound system, it might be enough interest to buy a CD. Just a little bit. And you'll be able to buy something after 9-10 months perhaps that would have taken 2 years to buy on credit. And you'll own it on the day you buy it. So I'm not answering your question, I know, but please reconsider, and then reconsider again. And only if you've reconsidered and there's no other option and you can't possibly wait to get that item, only then should you consider buying something on credit. But still have your head examined.
I think if you are going to buy on credit, my advice is to shop around. We've done our own research. We've been around mystery shopping, various stores, and we found there are often huge differences in the charges that they apply. So you might find one product that's actually cheaper in one store, but the insurance costs or the admin fees or whatever it is they add on is much cheaper, or the rate of interest that they charge is cheaper. So if you are going to go down that route, make sure you've done your homework first and find the cheapest option within store credit, because it's not an even playing field.
I think also one of the things you should do is find the store that's offering the best deal, but then find the product within that store. We saw recently in the mystery shopping we did that one of the particular manufacturers of TVs is now offering a 2-year warranty, not a 1-year warranty. Now, if you're buying something on credit over 2 years and the warranty is only for 1 year, you have to question what's going to happen in the second year. If they can only guarantee it's going to work for a year, does that mean it will go wrong in the second year? Maybe if it does go wrong, you're left without a TV completely and you're still paying for something you don't have. So look for the particular product that offers the best warranty and the best value for money. So a 2-year warranty for a 2-year credit deal sounds good to me. And I would even go as far as to say maybe that's something the law should demand, that the product has to be warranted or guaranteed for the period of the credit. If they can't warranty it for more than a year, don't sell it on credit for more than a year. That shouldn't be allowed. I think that would be reasonable.
Okay, well, often we find that customers will ask to pay for something over a shorter period of time, and most stores will allow that. So they might go in and say, look, I don't actually want to do it over a 1-year credit agreement. Can I please pay over 3 months or 6 months? And a lot of the stores will actually say, yes, that's fine. You still have to go through the credit process, so you have to apply and they have to take all your details, but they'll allow you to pay it for cash over a certain amount of time. So perhaps 3 months or 6 months you can pay the cash price in instalments. However, the danger with that is if the agreement isn't documented, and we've had cases where people have gone in and they've signed up for credit but agreed after that, no, I'll pay it over 3 months. 3 months have come and gone and they've missed a payment or they've missed the date, so the credit agreement automatically kicks in. And when they go back to the store saying, no, the person who served me agreed I could pay cash, there's no credit charges applicable, that person's left the store and it was never in writing. So if you are going down that route, whatever you agree, make sure it's in writing with both parties signing it.
I'm not a lawyer, but there's a bit of common law, I believe, called the parole rule of evidence. When you get to court, get to a magistrate's, when something's been put in writing, no oral agreements matter. The written agreement is all the court will look at. They won't listen to you when you say, but I shook hands with this person and agreed something else. No, the parole rule of evidence says only the written agreement applies, and the court will not even consider looking at something else. So if it's not in writing, you have to consider that it doesn't exist.
What are some of the most crucial things consumers overlook in these type of contracts?
Before you even sign on the dotted line, you need to understand what the contract is saying and what are the conditions that you are agreeing to. And this is where, for me, the whole store credit process comes undone. We went out mystery shopping and we went in together to try and buy furniture on credit. No, we didn't want to buy it, but to test the process. And we wanted to find out, could we get hold of a contract from a store? No, we couldn't. So in one store, we actually had to sit and go through the whole credit process in order to get them to give us a copy of the contract so we could read the terms before you can sign.
Which they didn't give us.
Which they didn't give us, no.
Our guests feel that consumers are not given enough information about hire purchase agreements. Kate says stores make it unbelievably difficult, in her experience, to obtain a copy of a hire purchase contract to read and understand in one's own sweet time.
Stores make it unbelievably difficult for a customer to find out what they're going to be signing up to before they actually sign on the dotted line. So our first piece of advice is demand to see the contract. Ask to take it away. If they won't let you take it away, then you should seriously rethink, do I want to sign something that I haven't had an opportunity to read in full? When we did finally get a contract from a store, one of the contracts was 12 pages long. Now, are you going to sit in a store and read 12 pages of minute print in legal terminology that a lot of people won't understand and sit there and go through it when someone's pressurising you to sign because they want to move on to the next customer? So I think there's a lot more that can be done from the store point of view to give customers the right to know what they're signing before they sign.
I think one of the things you should do is in those situations where they say, no, you can't have a copy of the contract before you sign it, you have to take a moment and think to yourself, why won't they let me see it? What are they hiding? What is in that contract that they don't want me to understand? Because if you look at the contracts, we've seen them now, a lot of them, there are plenty of things in that contract that they obviously don't want you to understand, they don't want you to know. Because if you really knew about it, if you really knew what it meant, you wouldn't sign it. Because you know you'd be exposing yourself to incredible danger, financial danger, and to incredible risk. So ask yourself that question, why won't they give it to me? Or why are they making it so difficult? One of the things they wanted me to do when we were mystery shopping was they wanted me to sign an order form. Just to give me a quotation, they wanted me to sign a thing which said order. And I refused, because I'm not signing that. I'm not putting my signature on an order form, because that commits me. And we were just mystery shopping, but this was, again, before they would even give us a copy of the terms and conditions of the contract. They wanted me to put in writing an order for the item we've been considering. And they got very flustered. And when I said, I'm simply not going to sign that, you can put the pen away. I won't sign it until we see the conditions.
But what you'll often find is a store assistant will say, no, don't worry, I'll cancel it. Just sign here and we can tear the piece of paper up afterwards. Now, there's no guarantee that they're going to do that. Once you've put your signature on a piece of paper, you've entered into a contract, and that's the end of the story. I think the other thing that customers need to do is make sure they ask questions. So when we actually got quotations from stores, we'd see things like an administration fee. One store actually told me, that's the fee that covers us coming to collect money from you at work when you don't pay. So in other words, we're paying up front for the harassment fee for them to chase me to get the money out of me if I don't go in and pay. They also went on to say that they had to deliver the item to us at home, and to do that they were going to charge us 300 pula for the privilege. When I explained, no, I've got a car, I can put a small TV in my car, no, we have to bring it to your house. And the reason that they do that is they want to know where you live, so they know where to recover the item if they have to come and repossess it. So ask, what are the charges? One of the most horrendous things we've seen is the charge for insurance. We looked at a sofa and it was 13,000 pula cash. We asked if we could buy it on credit, and on a 3-year credit agreement, the insurance charge was at nearly 11,000 pula. So what exactly are you paying for? What does the insurance cover? And if you already have your own life insurance and your own household contents insurance, why would you want to spend an extra 11,000 pula in a furniture store to cover the item over the credit period?
We spoke to an insurance specialist earlier today about this, just to ask his advice. He runs an insurance company, a reputable, legitimate insurance company. And we're talking about this level of insurance, 11,000 pula for an item that costs 13,000.
Yeah.
And we were talking about household insurance. And I said, well, how much does household insurance cost? And he said, a really expensive insurance policy these days will cost you about 3% per year of the things you're insuring. So of your entire household contents, about 3%. And no insurance company said, we'll ever insure one single item. They won't never just insure one sofa or one television. They'll insure the whole house and all of its contents. So for 13,000 pula, an item, if they were going to do that, a TV worth 13,000 pula, 3% of that is 400 pula? Most. Let's be extravagant. 500 pula. That's what it should cost to insure the item. 11,000? It's 22 times more than what a really expensive insurance policy would charge you for it. That's just outrageous. But it tells you something. Again, it forces you to ask a question. Why is it so expensive? What is it they're actually insuring? Is it the TV in case it's stolen or bursts into flames? No. They're insuring something else. They're insuring themselves against you not paying. That's what the insurance is really all about. It's not about household insurance. It's not about insuring your sofa or your television or your laptop. It's about something different. And again, it's one of those questions you have to ask yourself, why are they charging such a vast amount of money for this? And you should ask them, why is it so expensive? Viewers should remember that figure, 3% tops in a year. Go to the store and say, hang on, I heard on the TV, on First Issues, 3%, this doesn't work out. Why? Force them to justify it.
The other thing we found was within the contracts, some of the contracts actually say if the prime rate of interest changes within the country, the agreement that you have can increase. Yeah? They don't say they can put it down if the prime rate comes down, but if prime goes up, the rate of interest that you're going to pay within the credit agreement can be changed. So that's again something that I don't think people are aware of at the time they sign an agreement.
Which cases have been the most memorable for our consumer protection advocates? And what did these cases teach them about hire purchase practices in general?
I think the most frequent complaint we have from a customer is something went wrong with the goods that I bought, and I therefore stopped paying because I took the goods back, it could be it the bed or the TV or whatever it is that they bought, and the store didn't repair it on time. Just this morning we had an email that came in from somebody who said that they bought a laptop computer 2 weeks ago. They bought it on credit, and the computer's already gone wrong and they've taken it back, and their question to us is, why must I still pay? And the big thing to remember is that the credit agreement and the item are completely separate. So yes, the store have an obligation in terms of a manufacturer's warranty or even the consumer protection regulations, which say that goods should be fit for the purpose and of merchantable quality. But that is completely separate to the obligations the customer has when they buy on credit. So even if the store takes 6 months to repair the TV or the computer or get you a new bed, you still have to continue paying the store credit agreement because it's separate. And that's where we see people coming unstuck all of the time.
It is not all doom and gloom for the local consumer. This past week, a directive that will literally save lives was put forth, ensuring that demands for payment from patients seeking emergency medical attention will not be made within those crucial minutes, but charged after the service has been rendered. The press statement from the Ministry of Health says that medical ethics dictate that all health professionals and health facilities, including those in private care, are duty-bound to receive medical emergencies, and strongly puts forth that a failure to comply with the directive will negatively affect the licensure of the private health facility or professional implicated. What implications could this have for the health industry? And what incidents could have prompted this national reprimand? Kate Harriman airs her views.
I think for the consumer, it gives people the knowledge that there is backup if something goes wrong. So the Ministry of Health are actually actively monitoring this situation. So if a customer has a complaint about the way they were treated, they know they can go through to the Ministry, who will take relevant action against the company or the health facility concerned. But I think equally, when a customer goes in, they know if it's a serious situation, they have the right to say, look, I need to be treated immediately, or I need my son, daughter, whoever it is, to be treated immediately, and we fill in the paperwork afterwards. So I think it's a big bonus.
The implications, I think, are going to be profound. I think we have a right to deserve a higher ethical standard from healthcare facilities and practitioners. This isn't like a bank or a cell phone company. It's health. It's so fundamental to our existence that we do have a right to expect them to behave a bit better. The implications are going to be that we'll see fewer cases, we'll hear of fewer cases of people who've just been not treated or turned away. I mean, most people have heard of them. Someone goes to a private hospital and they're either not treated or they're turned away, or they're not treated until you cough up cash. I mean, I myself, a few years ago, a very good friend had a catastrophic head injury, and a certain private hospital in Gabs refused to admit him until his neighbour supplied 3,000 pula in cash. Now, this guy is a senior manager in a parastatal, covered by top-of-the-range medical aid cover. But because it was a public holiday and that medical aid company wasn't open, they couldn't get through, so they demanded cash. Even though they had his little gold card, she had to spend 3,000 pula before they admitted him. I then had to pay 2,500 in order for them to operate on him to save his life. His brain was filling with blood. I saw the pictures, and they refused to operate until I coughed up cash. Now, that's a case of someone who was obviously going to pay because he's got top-of-the-range medical aid cover. And it was disgraceful, their behaviour. And I think Dr. Sepone's press release actually addresses that particular sort of case, but also covers the situations where someone doesn't have medical aid cover at all, but they just happen to be there and they urgently need life-saving treatment. The press release is clear. It doesn't mean they have to treat them for 6 months. It just says stabilise, make them survive, and then you cross the next bridge of getting them to somewhere which will treat them. So the implications, I think, are that we might have decent treatment for once from some of these facilities and some of these practitioners. And the key implication is I think we might save some lives. And I think we need to pay tribute to Dr. Sepone for issuing this press release.
If you talk to any consumer who's been to a private health facility, you'll have heard at least one horror story where someone's been taken in but they've been refused treatment pending going to an ATM and getting money out and basically coming back with cash. Even this week we had an email from a customer who'd reported that they'd been to a private health facility and they'd taken in a friend with a suspected heart attack, and they were told to go to administration and fill in forms before they would even treat the patient. What then happened was they left that facility and went to a different hospital where they were treated immediately, and fortunately the patient is still alive. But the horror stories are out there, and you don't have to look too far to find them. So I suspect the Ministry of Health have been listening, and thank goodness they've decided to act.
I think another implication it's going to have is we know several doctors and nurses and healthcare professionals who are completely decent, committed, hard-working, devoted people, and people who are devoted to the treatment of their patients, who sacrifice their time and their effort and their home lives in order to help people, to treat people. And they themselves confront this ridiculous bureaucracy in private healthcare facilities where they're not allowed to treat people because the hospital won't allow them to, won't give them the operating theatre. I come from a healthcare background, an administrative healthcare background, but there is an ethos in healthcare facilities that you are there for a purpose. Very few people enter healthcare to make $1 million. They do it because they want to treat people. And the sort of conduct we've seen from certain facilities is impeding the devotion and the dedication of healthcare professionals to doing their work.
It is now time for a view of the stock market from this past week, courtesy of the Botswana Stock Exchange.
Good evening. Let's take a look at last week's capital market statistics. The domestic companies index, DCI, was up 0.40% compared to the previous week, whereas the foreign companies index was also up by 0.04%. Total turnover for the week was 38.3 million pula, a daily average of 9.5 million pula, and the total number of shares traded was 5.5 million. On an aggregate perspective, the stock market is performing much better than it was last year, with the FCI recording a slower decline of 1.19% compared to a decline of 2.2% last year, and the domestic companies index has registered a substantial increase from January to this point of 15.8% compared to an increase of 6.7% last year. Total turnover for the year is 1.8 billion pula, a daily average of 7.4 million pula, and the total number of shares traded this year is 585.1 million compared to last year's trade of only 294.9 million. Thank you very much.
As evidenced in the show this evening, we do not only point out weaknesses and challenges in the relationship between industry and the consumer, but also applaud positive developments within this area. From me, Nametso Sibina, the team behind First Issues, and our sponsors First National Bank, we wish you a good night and pleasant viewing.